Hello students, today's agenda is to check homework. We'll be learning about circumscribed circles and you will be able to work on 8.4. Today students will be able to find the circumcenter and draw the circumscribed circle about a triangle. So before we start, I'm going to give you some notes and I'm going to draw on the side so that you can see what I mean. But it says, to find the circumcenter, you need to draw the perpendicular bisectors of the sides of a triangle. So if I have a triangle, perpendicular bisectors, which we'll see in more detail in a minute, remember that we saw this a little bit, and so bisector means that it cuts each side in half. Okay, and not only that, but it's perpendicular, meaning it forms 90-degree angles. So that's one thing. And so for those that are horizontal or vertical, you just go straight in the middle, okay? But for those that are diagonal, then we're gonna have to find the perpendicular bisectors by using the slope for perpendicular lines, and I'll read this information in a bit. Okay, but this is what we're trying to find, which is called a circumcenter. That circumcenter is equidistant from the vertices of a triangle. That means that if I find that point, it's the same distance from here to here, from here to here, and from here to here. After I find that circumcenter, I can use my compass and draw a circle because, well, since it's the circumcenter, it's equidistant to all three vertices. And that's what this next note says. This means you can circumscribe the circle about the triangle. So you can draw the circle around the triangle, okay? Now, how do I find that line? How do I draw it? Because for this one, if I have a horizontal line, you just go straight vertically in the middle. Same here. But how do I find that? Well, that's where this little note is going to be very helpful. We learned in Math 1 that perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal. Opposite reciprocal slopes. Opposite means you change the sign of the slope. And reciprocal means that you switch the numerator and denominator. Okay, you switch the numerator and denominator. And so when you switch, what this means is that, let's say that on one of the sides, let's pretend that we have a triangle where one of the sides, the slope is rise is 1, run is 2. Well, the perpendicular bisector will have the slope that is opposite reciprocal, meaning that reciprocal, you switch, the 2 goes up, the 1 goes down. But then since this was positive, you're going to put a negative. And this negative doesn't matter if you put it on the 2, if you put it on the 1, or you can put it in the middle. It's for the whole fraction, but you use it only with one numbers when you're graphing. Only with one of the two numbers. What if one of the sides have a slope of negative 2/3? That means you're going down 2 and 3 to the right, okay? The rise is negative 2, the run is positive 3, sorry. The perpendicular bisector will have, instead of negative, positive slope. Instead of 2/3, 3/2. Okay, you switch them. Okay, so that's what we will be doing, and so let's get to it. Remember that if you need a little bit more time, just make sure to pause the video or go back and take notes. Okay, so in here we have a triangle and I need my straight edge. Let me get that, but start copying. So we have a horizontal side. That means that all I need here is to count how many units, 1, 2, 3, 4. Cut it in half, so that will be 2, and that's gonna be my midpoint. I'm not gonna put the name because this is gonna end up with so much information that if we put more, it's gonna get more confusing. So that's the midpoint. It's right in the middle. And so I'm just gonna draw the perpendicular bisector for this side. For this side is also very straight, vertical, okay? So how many units are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just cut them in half, so it's only 3 of them. I find the midpoint is right there. Only when it's horizontal or vertical we can do that, right? Just remember it's similar to yeah. We find the midpoint and then yeah, we cut it perpendicular to the side. And I'm trying to be very careful with this because we need to find that point. And sometimes since we're, whoops, doesn't matter, it's okay. So it needs to be kind of as precise as possible. For the third side, this is not vertical or horizontal, it's going diagonal, okay? So in here, we do need to find the slope. For the slope, and this is where some people get confused, so I'm gonna kind of focus it a little bit more. For the slope, I'm gonna go along the line and find where 4 squares meet, which is, in this case, is right there, okay? And I count from here to here how many units is for the rise, the change on Y, and then the change on X, okay? That's my rise over run. So in here it will be going from the vertex to this point. Why did I choose that point? In here, you meet the line or the side meets only one line. In here, only this line. But in here, you have the 4 squares, meaning that you have 2 lines in there, okay? So I'm gonna count -1, 2, 3. It's negative because you're going down. And then +1, 2, because you're going to the right. If it was to the left, then it would be negative. But you're going to the right. So that's my slope. Okay, the slope. And you can see that it repeats. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay, so my slope for the perpendicular bisector, okay, that's the slope of this line, but I need to find for the perpendicular bisector, it's going to be the opposite. So instead of negative, it's going to be positive. And reciprocal, meaning that instead of 3/2, it's going to be 2/3. So positive 2/3. And I'm going to look for the midpoint. Sometimes the midpoint is going to be the same point that you found. Sometimes it won't. So just make sure that it is halfway. From there, you're going to count 2 for the rise. Remember, this is like our sunrise. Or sometimes, if it's negative, sunset. And the one in the bottom is going to be your runner. Since it's positive, you run to the right. Okay, if it was negative, to the left. Okay, so my rise is going to be 2. So 1, 2. I don't put a point in there. And then the run is 3. So 1, 2, 3. Right there. I draw my perpendicular bisector. Notice how we already knew that the lines were going to meet there. Why? Because the other two lines were meeting there already. I just wanted to do it to make sure that we have plenty of practice with the opposite reciprocal of the perpendicular line. Opposite, you change the sign. Reciprocal, you switch the numerator and denominator. Okay? Okay, so what does that mean? Now that we found all three perpendicular bisectors, we notice that they all meet in there. That is my circumcenter. And the circumcenter is going to be equidistant from all vertices. Notice how if I go from here to that vertex, if it's one, it's only a vertex. Oops, I'm moving the pencil from the top, sorry. Okay, that's the vertex. Oops. I can see that it's also equidistant to that, and it's also equidistant to that. So now I'm able to draw or circumscribe the circle about, whoops, it's because usually I put more papers underneath. And that's it. See how it goes around touching all vertices of the triangle? But let's do some more examples. Okay. One of the things that I noticed some people got confused was, how do I find that slope? Quick note, if you get confused, you can just choose to go from vertex to vertex and simplify the fraction. So if you go from here to here, always start on the point that is on the left. So just count. From here to here, you just go down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's going down, so it's -6. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. Both are divisible by 2. And so the answer is -3, because 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 4 divided by 2 is 2, and you just bring the negative, okay? Notice how you find the same slope. So it's okay if you get confused finding that point, you can just go from vertex to vertex, okay? Of the line that you're looking for the slope. Okay, so sometimes they're gonna say, first graph the points, then find the center of the circle that you can circumscribe about each triangle. So we're finding the same thing, but first we have to graph the points. And so in here we have -4, 1, -4, +1. Remember that this is x, this is y. So this is x and this is y. And if it's negative, you go to the left. If it's positive, you go to the right. For the y, for the second number, if it's positive, you go up. If it's negative, you go down. So the second point is -6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the left. -3, so you go down 1, 2, 3, right there. The last point is -2, -3. So -2, -3, so right there. I'm gonna connect the points, and the first thing that I'm gonna do is to check if I have any vertical or horizontal lines. And I notice that I have one horizontal line, and that means that I can just go find the middle and yeah! Okay. So the middle is right here because it's 4 units, and so it doesn't matter which one you use, what color. I don't know, somebody asked me, do I need to use different colors? I said, well, I'm using it just to identify the slopes, but in reality, I think if you're careful, you can just keep everything separate and that should be fine. For this one, these are diagonal, so I'm going to find the slope. And I think I'm just gonna go from vertex to vertex because I did notice that some people got confused in class. So, and simplify it, so that's fine. So if I go from this vertex to this vertex, I'm gonna count how many. Remember, choose the left and then the right. So going from here to here, I'm gonna go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So since you're going down, it's -4. And then 1, 2, +2 because you're going to the right. Both are divisible by 2. And so you get -2 over +1. Because 4 divided by 2 is 2 and bring that negative. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that's my slope of that line. But what I need is the slope of the perpendicular bisector. Okay? Perpendicular bisector. And so first of all, it should be the opposite. So instead of negative, it's going to be positive. And instead of 2 over 1, it's going to be 1 over 2. So I go ahead and find the midpoint. The midpoint is right there. Okay, because you have kind of like a diagonal between two square units. And so from there, now that I found my midpoint, I use the slope of the perpendicular bisector. So you go up 1 and 2 to the right. Okay, this is just the midpoint. This point you find by following this path. So 1 up, that's the rise, the sunrise going up. And then this is running to the right. Okay, 1 up, 1, 2 to the right. 2 to the right, and so you just connect those 2 points. Make sure that if you are like putting 2 squares in here, that you align that in here as well. See how that helps? And I think this is a little wide, so okay. Now I'm gonna do the same thing for the other side of the triangle. I'm gonna find the slope, which is represented by M. And again, these are the 2 points. If you know how to do it from here, that's fine. You just count 1, 2 over 1. But if you're not sure, just go from vertex to vertex and count. To get from here to here, I count +1, 2, 3, 4 over 1, 2. Okay, +1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And both are divisible by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay? So I divided by 2, right? To simplify, excuse me, to simplify that fraction. Now, after I find my slope, the first step is to find the slope. Find slope. The second part is to find opposite reciprocal. Opposite reciprocal. And that's the one that I'm going to use for the perpendicular bisector. Okay? So find opposite reciprocal for perpendicular bisector. And so my opposite reciprocal, this is positive. So that means that the next one is going to be negative. And if it's 2 over 1, it will be 1 over 2. I just switch them and put the other sign. And finally, I find the midpoint. Find midpoint and graph the slope. Okay, graph graph the perpendicular bisector using the slope. Graph using new slope. And that is the slope of the perpendicular bisector. Okay, so this is my midpoint, which is step 3. It's right in the middle. And from there, I look at the new slope. And it's going to be -1. That means you go down. And +2, 1, 2. Remember that this negative belongs only to 1. I recommend that you give it to the top if you get confused. Okay? And then this is always going to be positive if you do that. Okay, so -1 from the midpoint, -1, +2. And you just connect. Again, try to be as precise as possible because otherwise our distances are not going to be very accurate. Okay, now that I have the circumcenter, which is where the orange, pink, and green pens or lines meet, that means that that's the circumcenter. And that point is always the same distance from any of the vertices. So you can just choose any of them. Again, if you are not careful, and it might even happen to me, we might not get it exactly on the corners, but we're trying our best. Okay, let me see. Okay. I feel tempted to rotate the page instead of the compass. Notice how in here I hit a little bit off, but that's okay. Okay. If you become an architect, then you will have more precise tools as well. So notice how we already circumscribe the circle about, meaning around the triangle. Okay. Okay, one more example, and I'm gonna go a little faster because it's getting a little big or long, this video, but I just want to make sure that you guys get it if you're still a little confused. Okay, so really fast. 1, 3. So 1, 1, 2, 3. Always on X first and then Y. -3, -1, you go down. Always left and right, up and down. That's when you have the coordinates. And then 1, -3, 1, 2, 3. This is X, left or right. This is Y, up or down. Okay, so we're gonna ignore that now that we have the points. I'm gonna connect them. Notice how all the points in here are, oh no, never mind. This is a vertical line, so that's good because at least we have one that it's easy. You just, yeah, cut it right in the middle. Okay, and so that will be the vertical line here. All you have to do is cut it in half, and your line will be, guess what? It's right on the x-axis. So I don't even know if it's even gonna show. I'm just gonna put it a little lower so that you can see the pink in there. Can't even see it. Okay, so now I'm gonna find the slope for this one. It doesn't matter which one you do first, as long as, okay. For those that can see that the slope repeats at each unit square, you can go ahead and say that it says 1/1, okay? Because it's right in the middle. This has 2 lines. This has 2 lines. So 1/1. But if you're not sure, I'm just gonna put it in here. Go from vertex to vertex and you start counting +1, 2, 3, 4, and then +1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 4/4. Both are divisible by 4. Divided by 4, divided by 4, and that gives me 1/1. Okay, 4 divided by 4 is 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So, same thing. The opposite reciprocal, well, if you switch them, it's going to be 1 over 1. But the opposite reciprocal of the perpendicular bisector for that side is negative. The opposite means the other sign. Okay? I look for the midpoint, and for this, it's right there. That's the midpoint. That's where I start using my new slope. Okay, I think I'm going to put these notes right here. Hopefully it doesn't show too much. Find the slope. I already did. Find the opposite reciprocal. Switch the sign and switch the numerator and denominator. Find the midpoint, is right there. Graph using the new slope. That's, I already circled that or enclosed it in a cloud. Okay? Excuse me. And so it means that it's -1. So the rise is going down 1 and 1 to the right. 1 down, 1 to the right. And you can just do it once, but that's where you will draw your perpendicular bisector. Okay, we have 2 lines in here. They should meet in there, right? It's already, as long as you have 2, that should be enough, but I just want you to have extra practice. So again, I do the same thing for the other one. Find the slope. So m is equals to, I can see that 2 lines meeting there of the unit squares. These will be the unit squares, okay? So right there, if you want, you just count -1, +2. But if you get confused, just go from one vertex to the other. So -2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, +4. You simplify by dividing by the same number. And the answer is -2 divided by 2 is -1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. As you can see, you get the same thing. Okay? And so, find the opposite reciprocal. The opposite is positive, because if it's negative, it becomes positive. The reciprocal is, if it was 1 over 2, is 2 over 1. So this is the one that we're going to use to graph. Okay, the next thing is to find the midpoint. I look in here and the midpoint is right there. I use the new slope to graph the perpendicular bisector, and it says go up 2 and 1 to the right. 1, 2, 1 to the right. So it's going to go through there. Okay, remember that the slope you can repeat as many times as you want. Only one is necessary, but if you want to repeat it more, it will be more precise. As you can see, it did meet in there. That's the circumcenter. And so with my compass, I put the point in the circumcenter. Oh, wow. That was amazing. I go to any of the vertices. It doesn't matter which one. It should be about the same. It should be the same, actually, but you know how, again, we're not using... Whoops, I just moved it. And so as I do this last circle, I just gonna say that'll be all. So you can now start working on 8.4 and have fun. Remember to love math, because math loves you.